Hello, kids, and welcome to Children's Fireside Story Time from our library in Grosse Pointe Woods. Since it's Christmas coming up, today we are going to read How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging mistletoe wreath. They're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a snare. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early, and they'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise, 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 noise. The one thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to feast. And they'd feast and they'd feast and they'd feast, 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 feast. They'd feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing, 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 sing. The more the Grinch thought of the whole Christmas thing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. For 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. He made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. He chuckled and chucked. What a great Grinchy trick. Now this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeers were scarce, there was none to be found. Did not stop the old Grinch. No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I will make one instead. So he called his dog Max. He took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. The Grinch said, giddy up, and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos lay to snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the little first house on the square. This is stop number 1, old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. He slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slucked with a smile most unpleasant. Around the whole room he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skate drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns and plums. He stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimble, stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slucked to the icebox. He took the who's feast. He took the who's pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard the small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by the tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, the old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on the tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I will fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. He fooled the child, and he patted her head. He got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. When Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and shoved the tree up. And the last thing he took was the log from the fire. He went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still in bed. All the Who's were still snoozing while he packed up his sled. He packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-hoo to the Who's. He was grinchiously humming. They'll find out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That's the noise, grinned the Grinch, I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did. He heard a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch's eyes popped. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or another, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes or bags. He puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. And then what happened? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. The minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed through the load. He whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. He brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. The end. Thank you, kids, for joining us tonight at the Children's Fireside Story Time from our library in Grosse Pointe Woods. Come back and see us next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Good night.